Hello and welcome to circular weaving. Okay, this is so much fun. This is one of my favorite things to do. And the students usually love this project too. Okay, so I think you're going to enjoy this. If you are at home, let me tell you what you're going to need, okay? Because you could do this at home too. Or if maybe you want to go back, if you're in my class and you want to do it over the summer for something fun to do, these are great for in the car. You'll need a paper plate and some scissors, a skein of yarn. If you have a couple different colors, that's awesome. It makes it a little more fun. And just a piece of tape to start. You don't need a lot. A Sharpie, because we're going to write our names on ours, but you'll need something to write with. So you will need something to write with. But you don't really need a lot of stuff besides yarn, paper plates. So what you're going to do is you're going to get your paper plate, and I want you to cut right here. It says an odd number of notches for circular weaving. So on the back of this, I have them numbered, and I have cut 15 little slits just in the top of the paper plate. I didn't cut all the way into the center. I just cut around the edge, okay? Then turn it over after you're done cutting, and you're gonna label them starting with 1, 2, 3, 4, and you label, put a number next to each little slit that you cut in your paper plate. And I love to do 15, okay? I think 15 on a normal size paper plate turns out really, really nice, okay? So let me get started. I'm gonna show you how to do this. There's a pattern you have to follow. Let me get my piece of tape. There's a pattern that you have to follow when you're making the weaving loom. So if you're at home, this is what you're going to need right here. This is the pattern. You could always pause it. For my students in class, I am going to make a big poster and put it on the board so you'll be able to see how to make your loom. And I think we're gonna make them together. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna find the tail of my yarn. So I have this, it's called a skein of yarn, and find the tail. This is the end of the yarn, okay? So I've got the tail. Then I'm going to find number 1 on my weaving loom, and I want you to be looking at the back. You're going to put your piece of tape over the tail. You're taping it onto the back of your paper plate. Then we are going to use a Sharpie, and I want you to write your name. So I'm going to write Mrs. Constein on the back on my piece of tape. Please don't write it on the paper plate because I reuse these every year. There's no need to waste the paper plates because your weaving at the end is going to come off of the paper plate. Okay, so now you've taped it by number 1. Put your yarn into the slit right here that says number 1. Turn it to the front, and now I'm going to start referencing my pattern here of how to create my weaving loom. So it says I need to go from number 1 to number 8. So I have it in the slit at number 1. I'm going to go across the weaving loom, and I'm going to find number 8. There it is. Put your yarn into the slit where number 8 is. Now I look at the chart again. It says 8 to 9. So now this time you're going to go on the back 8 to 9. I have a little phrase with this, and it helps kids to be able to remember this pattern. And I say, there is a lady and she's looking for yarn. She starts out at her house, which is number 1. She walks across the street. She knocks on the neighbor's door and she says, do you have any yarn? To number 8. Number 8 says, I'm sorry, I do not have any yarn. You need to go next door. Ask number 9. Number 9 says, I'm sorry, I don't have any yarn. You need to go across the street from 9 to 2. So now you're going to cross the street. The front of our plate is going to be the street. So I'm going to go 9 to 2. Then, knock, knock, knock. Number 2 says, I'm sorry, I don't have any yarn. You need to go next door. So go to the back, go from 2 to 3. So 2 to 3 on the back. So I flip it over like this. Go 2 into slit number 3. Knock, knock, knock. Number 3, do you have any yarn? I do not. You need to go across the street. Let's see, 3 to 10. So I go across the street, find number 10, put it in the slit. Number 10, do you have yarn? I do not. Go to the next door neighbor, number 11. Knock, knock. Do you have yarn? No, I do not. You need to go across the street from 11 to number 4. So I go 11 across the street to number 4. Oh, it got caught in another slit. Just take it out, put it right into number 4. Okay, your yarn right here should be pretty tight. You don't want it to make the paper plate bend, okay? But you don't want it so loose that it's all kind of hanging and saggy. Okay, so number 4, do you have any yarn? No, I do not. You need to go to the next door neighbor, 4 to 5. So it always goes next door neighbor, across the street. Next door neighbor, across the street. So I went next door, so now I need to go across the street. Good. So I went to 5. From 5 I go to 12. So I'm going to go 5 into number 12. Remember, across the street means you're in front of the plate. Knock, knock. Nope, sorry, no yarn here. Go to my next door neighbor, number 13. Do you have any yarn? No, I do not. You need to go across the street, 13 to 6. Let's see, 13 to, where's number 6? Oh, right here. Do you have yarn, number 6? No, I do not. You need to go to my next door neighbor, number 7. Number 7, do you have any, let's see, it went 6 to 7. Number 7, do you have yarn? No, I do not. You need to go across the street to number 14. So I go across the street, number 14, put it in the little slit. 14, do you have yarn? No, I do not. Ask my neighbor, number 15. Remember, we have 15 notches. Knock, knock, number 15, do you have any yarn? Yes, I do. Number 15's got the yarn. All right, so now you can't go anywhere else because there are no more slits. So what you're going to do now is you are going to, let's see, leave some slack in your yarn. Okay, so don't cut it really short. Leave about an arm's length, like that. Cut it. Right there. And now you're going to start weaving with your tail that you just cut. Okay, so watch how I go around the first time. Just watch, don't start. Okay, so the first time with my yarn, it's really tricky if I weave in the center. So I'm actually going to weave along the outside edges where the yarn is more spread apart, okay, on my warp. So I'm going to go this direction. If you go counterclockwise today, you will need to weave counterclockwise every time you come to art. If you go clockwise, that's fine too, but then next time you come to art, you have to go clockwise. You always have to go the same direction. So I'm gonna go counterclockwise. Okay, so I'm gonna go, take your tail, I'm gonna go over, this is a pattern, it's an A-B pattern. You're gonna go over with your tail, then I'm gonna go under, over this yarn, under the next one, over, under, over, and now after you have maybe about 4 or 5 times, kind of pull your yarn to get rid of all that slack. And I like to keep my yarn going along the outside circle right here, so I just kind of moved it to the edge. Makes it easier for my eyes to be able to see. So let's see, if you can't remember what you did last time, pull up on your yarn, your tail. Oh, I can see I went under this thread. So if I went under last time, I need to go, if you said over, you're right. So I'm gonna go over, under, under, pull it, not super tight. Now I check to see what did I do last. Oh, I can see my yarn. It went under this green thread. So I need to go over, under, over, under, and now I'm back to where I started. This thread here, remember number 15? It wants to be part of our weaving loom. So you are going to have to go, I went under this time, you're going to have to go over number 15, and then I go under, over, under. Now that we've made it one time around, now it's okay to pull your yarn nice and tight. I like to try to make it go right in the center of the plate. So I'm pulling, don't pull tight until you have it all the way around. So I pull it up, and now look it goes way to the center. Okay, and now it's gonna be the same thing. You're gonna keep going around and around, going over, under, over, under, over, under, until this whole plate is full, okay? Let's see how much time I have. If you need to add a new color, let's say you're weaving, you're going, I went under this one, so now I'm gonna go over, under, pull it tight. Okay, let me spin it around. I pull up on the yarn. I can see it went under that one, so I'm gonna go over, under, pull it tight. I only do about 4 times and then I pull it tight. I went under, so I'm gonna go over, under, pull it tight. You're gonna be doing a lot of patterns if you talk out loud like me, a lot of patterns. You're gonna hear yourself repeating the same things. Okay, now let's pretend this yarn is only about this long. It's getting kind of short, okay? Go to the yarn caddy, get another color, or you can keep the same color, and let's tie a knot. You're just gonna tie this new color onto the old color. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the old and the new together and make a letter X, okay? Let me make sure that you guys can see this really well. I make a letter X, I loop one of the colors down and back up. So I just kind of looped it around, and I bring it back into a letter X. Now you're gonna do it again with these 2 little tails at the top. Make another X. This is just like when you start to tie your shoes. Make another X with the old color and the new color. But now that X made like this hole down here. That's good. Take one of the tails, push it into the hole that you made, and pull both tails tight. And now I've got a knot. If you want to trim these, you can trim them, but be really careful. I usually don't trim any of my little tails until I'm done with all of my weaving and it starts to look like this. Then I go back in there and I trim off the tails. Okay, so have fun. I can't wait to see these. I'll be available to help you out. And remember, if you're sitting next to someone that can help you out too, you can always ask a neighbor. All right, have a great time weaving.